My name is Nivedhitha Subramanian, and I'm in the economics department at Bates College. Thanks so much for tuning into this talk looking at workplace attributes and women's labor supply decisions. Broadly speaking, in low and middle income countries, the gender gaps in terms of secondary and tertiary school enrollment have closed, as you can see in the light green bars. However, the gender gap persists in labor force participation, and in particular, female employment rates are very low. This is roughly the same pattern, even though just more stark, in Pakistan, which is the setting of this study. So this begs the question, why is it that the gains that women have made in terms of educational attainment are not being realized on the labor market? On this map, countries with a larger gap between female and male labor force participation are in the lighter color, and these countries are concentrated in North Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. Pakistan is firmly in that region, and thus it's an important place to study these barriers to women working outside the home. On the demand side, women can face hiring discrimination, which could prevent them from working outside the home. In this paper, I'm focused on supply-side constraints that can prevent women from working outside the home. So in particular, on the extensive margin, women can face stigma if they choose to work anywhere outside the home. And on the intensive margin, cultural norms in settings like Pakistan that dissuade women and men from interacting in public spaces can impose additional costs on women if they choose to work at a job where they have a lot of interaction with men. So to explore whether these intensive and extensive margin costs are impacting women's labor supply, I conduct an experiment with educated female job seekers in Lahore who are enrolled onto a job search platform called jobseekers. On this platform, they receive batches of text messages with open job postings for which they meet basic qualifications. And on this platform, I conduct two related job seeker level experiments. So the randomization for both is at the individual level. The first is an information experiment where I cross-randomize job seekers' access to information for each job posting about coworker gender, supervisor gender, both of those pieces of information, or neither. And this is designed to get at that intensive margin cost of costs that women can incur depending on job characteristics. In addition, I, on a subsample, conduct a priming experiment where in the treatment group, job seekers are primed to think about family job search advice before they make decisions about which jobs to apply to. And this is designed to get at that extensive margin stigma cost that women can face to working outside the home. Of course, the full results and the details are in the paper. I just want to highlight a couple of results here. Looking at the supervisor gender information experiment, I find that holding everything fixed that's observable about the job, women are about twice as likely compared to the baseline mean to apply to a job where they receive information about supervisor gender. And in particular, they're more likely to apply to a job with a female supervisor rather than a male supervisor, holding everything else fixed. I don't find a similar result for coworker gender, and I don't find any statistically significant results for information about coworker gender. So this suggests that women particularly are interested in knowing the supervisor, the gender of the supervisor, the job that they are considering. I then look at the information treatment results, but interacted with the priming treatment. So what I find is that women who are primed to think about family job search advice are not more or less likely to apply to jobs based on information that they get about supervisor gender. However, as you can see in the last two columns of this table, women who are primed to think about family job search advice are more likely to apply to jobs with information about coworker gender, which essentially seems to indicate that women think that their families care about the gender of their coworkers. So putting this all together, for educated female job seekers in Pakistan, on the extensive margin, in a result that I didn't present here but is in the paper, I find that family job search advice overall, just being reminded about it, decreases women's job application rates, which is consistent with the stigma caused. On the intensive margin, I find that women are interested in knowing the gender of their supervisor and particularly prefer female to male supervisors. However, women believe that their families care about coworker gender. So if they're primed to think about family job search advice, they're more likely to apply to jobs with information about coworker gender. And this suggests that in addition to these intensive and extensive margin costs, there is a discrepancy between what women want for themselves and what they believe that their families want for them in a potential job. There's, of course, many more details and results, and these are in the paper, including results related to belief updating and occupational choice as a function of these types of job characteristics that are gender related. So thanks so much for your time. Here's a link to the most recent version of the paper and my contact information. I'd love to hear your questions and comments.